and fight back with mouth tracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks, cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.
Peace and love, family. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Maat. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight I have with me another powerful guest, Baba Olatunji Mwamba, but he's no stranger to the community. Peace and love to you, Baba. How are you?
Peace and love. I'm well. I'm just doing what I do, trying to get out the info, trying to inform my people and inspire us to get up and do something.
Beautiful. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much, Baba, for coming on the show. Family, right now, take a moment out to thumb up this video. Also share this video. Tonight, Baba Olatunji will be discussing his new book, An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the conversation no one wants to have. But we're going to have that conversation on this platform tonight. So take a moment out to share this video. Also, family, if you're watching on Facebook, and I'm going to discontinue streaming on Facebook because it seems like a lot of my viewers, Baba, come from YouTube. But if you're on Facebook, be sure to head on over to YouTube, type in Dr. Oya Maat, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell so that as soon as I go live, you will be notified. Also, family, I've brought on Baba Olatunji, Baba Mku, Baba Mwalimu Barudi, Mama Ya Barudi, and others. Just last night, I had on Brother Tariq Nasheed. I've had on Brother Ankh West. So I brought on some powerful people. So be sure to go back into the archives. I've created a playlist called Truth Power Talk. Okay, and so you go to the playlist and check out all of the previous discussions. I've also had on Professor James Smalls and Dr. Kaba Kamene. All right, so I bring on the heavy hitters. So be sure to check out those previous discussions. So I'm going to begin by reading Baba Olatunji's bio from another book that he released. Baba, I believe this was last year, Raising Awareness.
Yes.
Yes, and this is a must-have for everybody, okay? And so I'm going to read his bio on page 15. It says, Seba Olatunji Mwamba. I was born on June the 7th, 1954 in Baltimore City, Maryland, the United States of America. I grew up in Baltimore City on the west side until I was 14 years old. We then moved to the east side of Baltimore City, where I lived until adulthood. He says, I am a heterosexual Black man. And yes, he did write that in his bio. He said, I am a heterosexual Black man, and I am happily married to my wife, Zakia. I am currently 65 years old. I'm the father of 8, 2 daughters, 6 sons, a grandfather of 15, 9 daughters and 5 grandsons, and a great-grandfather of 1 great-grandson and 1 great-granddaughter. I came of age.
By the way.
What'd you say?
I'm 66, by the way.
66 now. Ashe.
At the time when I wrote that, I was 65.
Okay, beautiful. Ashe. It says, I came of age during the height of the civil rights Black Power movement of the mid-1960s to the end of the 1970s. These are the years that shaped me and my mindset. I am a former member of the Black Panther Party for Defense. I was assigned to canonical police brutality for the Black Panther Party for Defense. During my brief membership in 1969 to 1970 at the age of 15, the age of 16 in 1970. I left that organization in 1970 to pursue a singing career while continuing to pursue my dream of singing. In the summer of 1974, I was introduced to Black nationalist ideology. Wow, Baba. African-centered knowledge and African-centered cultural information by my Jegna, Bilal Apo Oba. Obio Baba. Thank you. I was also introduced to Orthodox Islam during this time as well. I adopted Islam as my religious practice, even rising to the position of imam at one point. However, as time went on, I could no longer adhere to the practice of Islam because the facts of history dictated that doing so was a contradiction of the historical evidence relative to that religion. I became a staunch Black nationalist and African-centered at the age of 20. And from 1974 onward, I've adopted a Black nationalist ideology, African-centered culture and lifestyle, and changed my name legally and incorporated African-centered information into my life. So my philosophy is Black nationalism, Ma'at, and African-centeredness. All right. And then this last paragraph, he talks about all of the different people, all of the scholars and researchers and writers and thinkers that have influenced him. So I see that you shouted out Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. John G. Jackson, Dr. Marimba Ann Nee, Dr. Charles Finch, Dr. Shenk Anti-Jope, Dr. Theophilo Banger, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Bobby Wright, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Dr. Ishanka Musa Barashango, and others. All right. So you said at one point in the mid 1990s and early 2000, I was a semi-regular co-host of a radio program in Baltimore City on WEAA Radio 88.9, Morgan State University, with my good friend, sister, Nalango Sayed, for several years as well. I'm currently a member of the group Raising Awareness. So thank you so much, Baba, for being with us tonight. Again, family, please share this show. Please share the show. I see you coming into the building. I do appreciate you being here again tonight. We're going to discuss his book, An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the conversation that we don't want to have, the conversation no one wants to have. But Baba, before we get started, I want to flat out ask you this question because this is in the title. I said alphabet agenda, fact or fiction. What would you say? Fact or fiction, Baba? Fact that there is an agenda. That there is an agenda. Okay. And so we're going to get into that. But Baba, before we do, why this book? Because some people, again, you've told me some people had their criticisms. They said, oh, Baba Mwamba has talked about this. He's written a book. Irritated Genie has written about the effeminization of Black men and homosexuality. So they're saying, why this book? Why do we need another book? Could you break that down for us, Baba?
Okay. Well, if we just take a look at the title should give you a reason for understanding why the book was written. It is an African-centered response to the LGBTQ organizations and their agenda, the conversation no one wants to have. Now, the reason I titled it that is because the book addresses organizational agenda. It is not an attack on individuals. And that needs to be made clear. We're not talking about your cousin Ray Ray or cousin Lily or Joan, whatever, from around the corner. These are people who for whatever reason, and we can get into that for why they might participate in one of those various behaviors, but they are not a part of the decision-making bodies of the various organizations who have an agenda that they're pushing. It is for that reason that this book became necessary, because I had not seen a book detailing it. Now, the Irritated Genie has done a zillion lectures on it, so he talks about the agenda. So, and he's somebody I've known for probably 15 years or better. Walimu Baruti I've known at least 15 years, and in fact, what most people don't, who might be having their criticisms about this book, they're criticizing something they haven't read. Because Walimu Baruti wrote the foreword for this book.
He sure did.
So obviously he understood that it was necessary to be done, or he probably wouldn't have written the foreword for it. So this book more than anything else, is a template of how we can fight back. And what is needed to fight back is critical, documented evidence and information. You cannot fight your enemy when they have the all of the necessary tools, and the only thing you have is the fact that you may not agree with a particular lifestyle or behavior. What you need now in terms of arguing your points is evidence. And so what I tried to do was to gather as much evidence as I could in this small little book. If I had done what I really wanted to do, the book would look like a book written by Takar Kilimanjaro, who wrote African. Brother Takar writes
a thousand pages.
I didn't want to do that, but I did want to give some basics in terms of definitions, history, and to begin the process of laying out, first off, defining what an agenda is, and then establishing some of the attributes of the agenda.
Okay, so hold on, Bob, because I don't want to get into that. We're going to get to that, but I just kind of wanted the people to understand that there is a distinction between what you published and what Baba MWAMBA and the brother Irritated Genie. So I want the people to
there was one other thing I wanted to add, is that Barudi's book was published in 2003. The Genie's book was published in 2004. So nobody has done the type of book that I've done from an African-centered perspective since that time. And so my book came out in December of 2020. So it is because of that this book became imperative. Not just, it was more than just necessary. It was imperative that it needed to be done, because I saw all of the different things that were going on and encountering those types of things on throughout social media. And that's the other thing too, is that when the Genie and Barudi wrote their book, social media was not a thing. So this book was written because I started getting the narratives from the other side, and so it was imperative that we respond.
And let's get into that, Baba. Let's get into that, because it took you nearly 12 years to write this book. Family, we're talking about an African-centered response to the LGBTQIA organizations and their agenda, the conversation no one wants to have. So, Baba, you told me it took you 12 years to put this book together. So tell me, I know you said that you were having various arguments with different people on social media about the agenda. And so you said that you decided to take all of that data and to put it in this book. And by the way, family, tonight I will be handing out 10 copies. I met up with Baba. Baba, when did we meet? Beginning of January, right after?
It's about maybe a week or two ago.
Yeah, about a week or two ago, I grabbed 10 copies from him. So tonight, family, I'm giving out 10 copies. So hang with us tonight, okay, to get these 10 copies. But Baba, let's get into some of those arguments that you were having online with people. What were sort of when you would mention the agenda? Tell me some of the things that you had to battle against. What were some of the ideas that were being pushed that you felt the need to fight against? What did you see on social media?
Well, the first idea that I encountered was when you said, when I would say, for instance, that there's an agenda. They would say there's no agenda, and then my first thing, my response was, well, do you know what an agenda is?
Come on, talk about it, Baba.
So the first thing that's one of the first things I did in the book was to give the correct definition of what an agenda is. When people organize around an idea and they start an organization, when they start their organization, they have an agenda that they want to accomplish. And so what I'm dealing with, again, so I'm going to keep emphasizing that, is I'm dealing with their agenda.
Thank you,
So,
Baba.
I'm not attacking individual people. I'm attacking their agenda. And so, what I want us to understand, and for those who are sitting there and listening and watching the program right now, Google the definition of an agenda. And once you do that, then you'll understand why I wrote the book and why the book was absolutely necessary to be written for us as a race of people.
Okay.
So this
So
book
Baba, the
is
first. Oh, I'm sorry, I
this
didn't mean
book
to
is wrong.
interject.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so the first point that you had to battle was that there was no agenda, and so you had to
Right.
correct that on social media. What were other ideas, Baba, that you had to battle?
Well, of course, the main thing is I'm homophobic. They love to throw that around, homophobic.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I did, and this was based on an argument I was having, and the gentleman on the other side said that I needed to go look up a certain person. Now I'm not going to get into his name
Yeah,
because
no.
I don't want to give the whole book away. I want y'all to buy the book, and the reason's not just because I'm trying to sell something, but it's because what you don't realize is that you can utilize the various tools that I'm laying out in the book in a legal argument, for instance. For instance, say for instance you're on your job and you encounter somebody on the job that's gay or transgender, whatever. And you say, well, I just don't agree with that. And then they take you up to personnel. Next thing you know, they're trying to fire you. Well, you now have scientific evidence to show in the book that whole issue of transgender and why we should be fighting against it. For instance, and I'm just going to throw this out here. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, transgenderism is a mental disorder. And yet we see them right now trying to make it be normal. Y'all don't see anything wrong with that? They're trying to make something be normal that, one, of course, is abnormal. We know it's abnormal. Two, it is diagnosed in their psychiatric medical dictionary. And so when we look at the dictionary, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, it's listed as a mental disorder. It's called gender dysphoria. So
Yeah, I read about that, Baba. I read about that.
So what I'm saying is that I tell you where it is in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. I give you the book. I give you the what it says, and I give you the page number. It's all included in the book.
Okay.
And so if people get the book, they trust me. I guarantee you that you will, if you sit down and take your time and read this book, you will understand why it was imperative to be written.
And Baba, you know that you know that I have it, family, and
Yes.
I'm actually halfway through reading the book. So, Baba, my next question for you is this: you started out in the beginning, in your first chapter, you defined heterosexuality and homosexuality, and when you broke down the etymology of heterosexuality, I was blown away. I gotta be honest. I was blown away when you talked about the origins of that word. And it
so
blew.
did I when I found out about it. In fact, I only discovered the etymological definition about a day or so before I went to print. So I literally had to go back into my book and grab it and add that part into it, because I was like, and then I had to go back in and try to change all the places where I used the word heterosexual. There are a couple of them I think I might have missed, but I tried to change all of the places where I had heterosexual and change it to straight. And so I no longer refer to myself as a heterosexual male. I'm a straight male. I'm a straight black male.
Well, Baba, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before we jump into the definition or the etymology of it. Let me ask you this. Why did you decide to even start with defining those terms, heterosexuality versus homosexuality? Like, why did you start with the definition of those terms in your book? I believe it's chapter 1.
Well, because part of our dilemma is that we operate mostly, well, I won't say, when I say we, I'm talking about, I'm generalizing, of course. But many of our people operate from a premise of what they think they know, or what they believe, or what they feel. It's imperative that we approach every issue that affects us as a race of people based on, as I say again, documented evidence, facts, and information, correct information. And so you start with correct definitions. And so if you don't know the correct definition of a term, then how can you understand the term in and of itself?
That's
even
right.
the origin of the term. And so just here's just one term that I hear, people get upset about. Somebody will say, oh, you're ignorant. And many of our people think that you're telling them they're stupid. And you're not telling them they're stupid. You're telling them that they're misinformed, or they are unaware of something that you may be aware of, which is what you're trying to do, make them aware of it. And so we have to stop being so sensitive and start to listen, because you can't learn when you're talking.
Absolutely.
You can only learn when you listen. Like I was in the doctor's office. It's probably about 20 or 30 years ago. I wish I could remember, because some of these quotes, I can remember the quote, but can't remember who said it. But I read this quote on the wall. It said, "The beginning of wisdom is silence."
Say that again, Baba.
The beginning of wisdom is silence. And so you have to listen to the person who's talking to you. If you're reading a book, you need to make sure you understand every word that is on the page that you're reading. If you don't know the meaning of the word that's in that particular paragraph or sentence, look it up. Stop being lazy.
That's right.
Because
that's right.
What happens is that you're missing a large part of what the writer is trying to convey to you if you don't know the meaning of the word that's in the sentence that they're using. So stop assuming you know the meaning, and make sure that you know the meaning. And so I set out to give basic core terms that I see thrown around a lot. I had to make sure that I provided the correct definitions. Sometimes I had to go into the origin and who coined the term and all that kind of stuff. So that all of that was important. And I put all that in the book because the accusations that come about regularly from the other side, they have certain strategies that they use. And so the book helps you counter those strategies. So now you have what you need to say back to them when they say, oh, yo, this. No, I'm not. Well, the first thing that I always tell people to do before you say, no, I'm not, ask them this question. Just say, well, let's be clear. Let's make sure we understand what that particular term you're using means, so that in making such an accusation against me, that I can, because I'll acknowledge it if it's true, but let's be clear about the correct definition of that term. So people will say, it's just like if somebody said, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Well, before I said, no, I'm not, the first thing I'm gonna do is ask the person, well, let's be clear about what a Semite is. And then ask them, what is a Semite? Same thing with this. When they say you're homophobic, ask them what is homophobia, and watch how they misrepresent what the word actually should mean. Because we got to deal with the English language here, because this is the language we're speaking. So there's a methodology and a structure for how you put words together. For instance, homo and phobic are two separate words that have been combined together. So now the first thing one should do is separate the two words. So you got phobic, which derives from phobia, and you got homo, which they're using in terms of homosexual. So let's make sure that we know what each word means, because even though they combine them together, what they try to do is change the meaning of one of those words once they combine together, and you can't do that. English language 101, you can't do that. You still have to use the same definition for each word, even though you combine them together. You can't change it. And that's what they do, because they know that many of our people don't pay that kind of attention to detail. But we have to start.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But Baba, please break down the etymology of heterosexual and why you said, I no longer claim to be a heterosexual. I just call myself a straight man. Well, and I understand, but I want the viewers to understand why you decided to take that position.
Well, let's see. Let's do it like this. I'll just grab the book real fast and just bump that in real fast. There was a dictionary written by a doctor, a medical dictionary named William Alexander Dorland. In 1901, he prepared something called Dorland's Medical Dictionary. And in it, he defined heterosexuality as an abnormal or perverted appetite toward the opposite sex.
Oh, say that again. Say that again, Baba.
An abnormal or perverted appetite towards the opposite sex. So it's nothing abnormal about me wanting to be with the opposite sex, and I'm certainly not perverted. So you know, I say, well, that doesn't fit me anymore. So straight is, because I mean, it's nothing. It's real clear when you say straight. It's clear. It's like a straight line. It's clear. There's no ambiguity there. Nothing. You know. So it's at that point I said it's time for me to change that. So that's why I did that. And then what I discovered was in 1923, Merriam-Webster, their dictionary, they decided to take it a step further. So they took the term heterosexuality and defined it as a morbid sexual passion for one of the opposite sex.
Morbid.
Morbid. So again, see that, you know, one of the things that I learned was that they have been taking terms and redefining them, and or taking not so much term, taking well, not the term itself, but taking what the term means, and then create a whole new term for that particular thing that they're describing. And what they do is, when I'll give you an example. Before 1887, I believe, the term homosexual never existed. It was created by a German professor, psychiatrist, I believe, and I can't remember his name just offhand, but it's in the book. And then in 1892, the word homosexual worked its way into the English language. So here's the question: if the term only came about in 1887, and then in English in 1892, what were people referring to people who participated in that type of behavior? What did we call them? You see what I'm saying? So then we come up to the 1980s, and now they're changing the term again. So they keep changing the term. They keep coming up with new terms to describe the same thing. And what that does is it actually creates more confusion. It doesn't create more clarity. It creates more confusion.
So, Baba, let me ask you this. I want to move into the agenda, because I know that you spent, I believe it's chapter 9, that that was a pretty hefty chapter. It was like, I think you start on page 80 and you end on page 133. Family, tonight I'm with Baba Olatunji. Thank you for joining. We're talking about his new book, An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the Conversation No One Wants to Have. Again, we're talking about an African-centered response to the LGBTQIA organizations and their agenda, the conversation no one wants to have. I have 10 copies in my possession that I will be giving out tonight. So hang with us, family. I'm going to ask you to do some things, of course, in order to win a copy, but hang with us tonight. Bob, I want to move into this agenda because you spent about 50 pages
10.
on it. Okay, chapter 10.
Right.
You spent about 50 pages on it. And so I wanna get into the actual agenda. And not really, because I don't want to give the book away, but if we could kind of touch on things that can demonstrate or prove that there's an actual agenda. And Baba, we know that there's agenda. I mean, they said that Joe Biden just signed an executive order stating that transgender people can participate in girls' sports. And Baba, you and I were communicating on the telephone about the danger in that. Remember, you said something about there was a transgender that cracked a woman's skull in the MMA, MMA fight.
I think it was an AMA fight or some kind of contact sport.
Yeah, and he cracked the skull. And then it was another guy that another transgender female who he was participating in girls' sports. I think it was track, and he beat the women, and so their parents. It was kind of like a high school track tournament or something like that. And I know that they've taken it all the way to the Supreme Court right now. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I don't think that if you still have the male physique and the muscles, you shouldn't be in girls' sports. Our bodies are different. That's why males have their sports and we have our sports, you know. And so anyway, Baba, I know Biden did that. You had Barack Obama, who legalized gay marriages, I believe, in 2008, 2009. But just tell me, what other things, when you talk about this agenda that you see, let's get into it, Baba, without giving the book away. Some of the stuff that you talked about in chapter 10.
The most important thing I talk about in chapter 10, I mean, there's a lot of things because I deal with a whole range of things. But the thing that most concerns me is the fact that there's an organization called the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Educational Network. This organization was created by several people, but the main person, the guy's name is Kevin Jennings. He worked under the Obama administration as the school czar. Now they have a website, by the way, so I'm gonna give you the acronym again. It's GLSEN. I don't know if it's .org or .com, but Google it. They have a whole website. When you go on the website, you're going to see insanity. And as Samuel Ma'at just said, yes, they did just nominate a transgender for Assistant Secretary of Health. And by the way, Dr. Levine comes from Pennsylvania, where I currently live. So I've been seeing him for years. And the other thing too is we have to stop capitulating to them mischaracterizing genders. I don't refer to a transgendered man who's trying to be a woman as a woman.
You mean you said a transgender? I got you. I hear what you're saying. I got it, Baba. I got it.
And I don't refer to a transgender woman who's trying to be a man as a man.
Got you. No, I understand.
And we you know, they can't pass a law that can make you do that. Now, on the job, they try to, but that's because nobody's pushing back. Nobody's pushing. Everybody's afraid. And see, that's another thing.
Baba, hold up. Baba, hold up. But go back to finish talking about that organization, because I know the comment kind of pushed you in another direction. But the organization that you were saying, you said that this, you were talking about that guy.
Educational Network. They have books on their website. They're in all the public schools and the charter schools, pushing the teaching of the acceptance of these various behaviors. And so the thing that I want people to understand is that the reason I say LGBTQIA is because the organizations, they're organized around all of those letters. Lesbian for L, G for G for gay, B for bi, T for transgender, Q for queer, I for intersex, and A for allyship and or asexual. And so we have got to stop, as Barbara Baruti just said, we got to stop accepting their confusion, because that's what they're pushing, confusion with the new definitions. That's part of the problem. So, but getting back to what I'm saying is, they're in the schools, and if y'all see the books that they are now teaching our children, it will blow you away. Now, I can read to you from my book the quote from one book.
Go ahead, Baba, please, because you read that quote to me.
I really think I need to do that, because if you see if you see this, it will. The book is entitled "Reflections of a Rock Lobster" by Aaron Frick. On page 13, it says, and I quote, "My sexual exploits with my neighborhood playmates continued. I lived a busy homosexual childhood, somehow managing to avoid venereal disease through all of my toddler years. By first grade," when we say it again, by first grade, that means 6 years old, "I was sexually active with my friends. In fact, a small group of us regularly met in the grammar school lavatory to perform fellatio on one another. A typical week schedule would be Aaron and Michael on Monday during lunch, Michael and Johnny on Tuesday after school, Fred and Timmy at noon on Wednesday, Aaron and Timmy after school on Thursday. None of us ever got caught, but we never worried anyway. We all understood that what we were doing was not to be discussed freely with adults, but we viewed it as a fun sort of confidential activity. None of us had any guilty feelings about it. We figured everyone did it. Why shouldn't we?"
Now, see, my thing is this, Baba, and this was problematic for me. And I don't care what lifestyle you practicing. Why is that necessary? Why is that reading put in front of a child? That's
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying, Baba? Like whatever you do, do whatever.
Can we answer that for you? I can answer that for you.
Yeah, but just this, I know, Baba. I just got to get this out. My thing is, do whatever you want to do. What you do, I don't care what you do, right? But why does that have to be in an elementary school children's book? And so I was utterly appalled when you and I were talking about that on the telephone, the material. And family, there's a lot of other stuff that he showed me that you and I talked about that they're pushing. And like you said, through the schools. And what I've been telling people is that when you want to normalize a behavior, I don't care what it is, when you want to normalize behavior, the first thing, Baba, I see is this: it's legalized. Once it's legalized, it's pushed in the media. And then once it's pushed in the media, it trickles down into the educational system. So they hit you with it's legalized, then the media, and then after the media, then it is introduced into the education system. And we already know that's where the most indoctrination takes place. It takes place in the educational system. But I was utterly appalled when you read that quote to me, Baba. And people are asking in the chat, where can they buy the book? So I want you to announce that. Where can they find the book, Baba? Where can they buy the book?
Right now, you can only buy it online. You put in your search engine, https colon / Olatunji Mwamba.myshopify.com /collections/all.
Moderators, can you put that in the chat? Queen Mother Althea and Sister Jolanda, can you put that in the chat? Say the URL again, Baba.
It's https colon / Olatunji Mwamba.myshopify SHOPIFY myshopify.com /collections/all, and you can purchase the book there.
Okay, but go ahead and continue with your thoughts, Baba. You was getting ready to add something
Okay,
before
one of
I.
the things I wanted in terms of to piggyback off what you were saying, there was a brother that I used to see. I haven't seen Chad in probably 7, 8 years, maybe. But he used to live on Charles Street, and he had a loathing for homosexuals. And he used to always talk about how, when they had the gay pride parade up Charles Street, and he talked about how he saw a sign that one of them had posted as they were, walking up the street with the parade. And the sign said, and when he read that sign, when he told me what the sign said, I was blown away.
Mm.
The sign said, if you don't get them at 8, it's too late.
Mm.
And so, and the reason I'm saying that is because, as I say in the book, what they want is they want our children's minds, bodies, and souls. Because if you get them while they're children, then by the time they're at an age where they can intellectually make proper decisions, they're already screwed up. And on top of that, we got enough confusion going on with all of the other madness that we see going on throughout the neighborhoods daily, that we don't need to add more insanity to the insanity that we see every day.
Well, Baba, let me ask you a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
They intend to do that because they want our children to be messed up. And because if we're messed up like that, where is our warrior clan going to come from that's going to fight them? Because remember, we are at war. And even though we haven't fired a shot, they've been firing shots at us for the last 500-600 years.
Mm.
And they want to make sure that we never lift a finger to fire a shot. So if you get children and you confuse them, the war is over.
Mm.
That's why I wrote. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote it. I wrote this book for our children and our children's children and our children's children's children. I want this book to be the go-to, along with homosexuality and the feminization of African males, along with War on the Horizon, Black resistance to the white sex assault, along with the ISIS papers. This is like a building. I'm not stamping out anybody. I'm building on what was already there. So if anybody is saying that that's what I'm trying to put down anybody else, I am not. I champion all. When you read the book, you're gonna see I champion all of those books in here.
Yeah, you do. You do.
So
you absolutely.
I want to make sure that I'm clear. I am not. I am 100% on board with Baruti, Jeannie, Dr. Wilson. May she rest in power. You know what I mean? Even Dr. Patricia Newton, who I had conversations with about this. So we know what the deal is. And the only problem is, like I said, we don't have a go-to book that will detail how we can fight back, what things to say. I put a lot of that in here. A lot of that is in here. What to say to them.
Baba, let me.
What to say on the job.
Oh, sorry. Baba, I want to get into the terms homophobic and transphobic, because you made it a point in your introduction. You made it a point to say, hey, I'm writing this work, and given the definition of these terms, you can't classify me. Here it is right here. You says there are those among the LGBTQIA community and organizations who will try to falsely and incorrectly castigate this book and its author as being homophobic or transphobic, etc., or preaching hate. Those who do so will have proven they have never read this book. They have proven they are only being dismissive of it because they cannot refute the facts and evidence contained in it, and falsely and incorrectly castigating this book and its author as being homophobic or transphobic. They hope you never read the book. And so why was it important to you, Baba, to address that the terms homophobic and transphobic? Because we all know that as soon as you start talking about the agenda, then you're classified as homophobic, or you're classified as transphobic whenever you say I disagree, or you talk about the agenda. These are the terms that are used to kind of, like you said, castigate you. So tell me, Baba, why it was important for you to define those terms.
Well, because those are some of the major weapons that they use against us. And because we don't know the correct definitions and we don't know how to take them apart, they win. They win without us fighting back, because we don't know how to fight back. So when I wrote the book so we can know how to fight back, how to win. This book is designed to help us win. And we can win when we know the correct definitions. We can win when we know the history. We can win when we know culture. For instance, you got people running around here trying to say that we've always been into homosexuality.
And Baba, remember, I had got into a debate with a young lady, and peace to Brother Geechee Ya. I know that he's watching. He brought me on his platform, and it was two young ladies, and also Baba Keedy. We were on the platform, and the question was your homosexuality culturally acceptable in Africa? And I argue no. Baba Keedy argued no. And so they were saying things like, oh, if you look at the pyramid, there are two men kissing, there were gay orishas, and they were throwing out all of these sort of ideas. And what I was trying to get them to see, Baba, is that, look, it just became culturally acceptable in America, like in 2008. So you mean to tell me thousands of years ago, it was acceptable? Absolutely not. And what I noticed that the two young ladies were doing, it seems like they were distorting history in order to, I guess, justify, the lifestyle. And so that's what I know. And my whole thing is, do what you do. You don't need anybody. You don't need to distort information to do you, right? Just do you. You don't have to say, well, I'm doing me. And by the way, they were doing this 2,000 years ago. Just do you. And what she did was she used a book called Male Daughters, Female Husbands that was written by Ife Amadaye. Peace to Ifa Amadaye. And so the female, and Brother Geechee Ya, you could drop the link to the conversation in the chat. But what she said was she accused the Inobi women of practicing homosexuality, and Ife Amadaye addressed that in the beginning of her book. And she said, no, these were women that just were very bonded together, but it wasn't, it wasn't a lesbian sort of situation. They were just very bonded together, and they had a love for each other. And so, but a lot of people will use that text, Male Daughters, Female Husbands. And it's a beautiful book. I actually have it on my shelf. I studied it for summer, but they'll use that book to say that there was, that homosexuality was culturally acceptable in Africa, in ancient Africa. So I'm gonna ask you, Baba, was it? Let's lay that.
No.
We know let's
do it like this. This is the way I always say it. There is no evidence that the collective group of African people anywhere in Africa practiced, advocated, and accepted any of the LGBTQ behaviors prior to foreign contact. Keep in mind, because prior to foreign contact, we were in our righteous minds. We were sane. What one must understand, we were sane. We must understand that since at least, we gotta understand that the whole continent was continuously under attack. The attack started in Kemet, because Kemet was the hub and the most powerful nation on the continent. So all of the attacks, and it was the hub, it was the way before they really started traversing on the water. It was the way they came into Africa. So the Assyrians come in 667 BCE, and they conquer all of Egypt. And then in 525, here comes the Persians. Now, keep in mind, because you got some idiots running around here trying to say that the Persians were black. They were not. I can prove it. 525 BCE, here comes the Persians. Now, keep in mind, because you got some idiots running around here trying to say that the Persians were black. They were not. I can prove it. 525 BCE, here comes the Persians. Now, keep in mind, because you got some idiots running around here trying to say that the Persians were black. They were not. I can prove it. Anybody that wants to, I can give you the, I got 1,000 ways I can prove it. So, but anyway, after 525 in 332 BCE, here come the Greeks. In 30 BCE, here comes the Romans. And in 640 AD, here comes the Arabs. And essentially, we've been from that moment on, Egypt was done. And then the Arabs have been there ever since ruling. And then, of course, they got their butts whipped a couple of times. So in 1517, the Turks came in, kicked them in the butt. And then in 1798, here come the French. And finally, in 1887, the British. And then they pull back, but they leave their surrogates to continue to run everything. So now the only place where you got halfway sane individuals in Kemet is in the south, in Upper Kemet. That's the Nubians. And so my point is that when you know, throughout all of that, these people are conquering us. They don't just conquer, they bring what they are with them. You understand? So they're going to bring their culture, their language, and everything. Have you ever thought about this? You know, most people, when I ask them this, it stuns them. Conquerors come in and they do what? They rename the places that they conquer.
They sure do.
This is why when you look at Africa, when you look at North Africa, you got Kemet, which is now called Egypt. You got Libya, which was in ancient times called Libu. Then you have Tunisia and Algeria, right? That was Carthage in ancient times. And then west of that, you had Morocco and Mauritania, right? In ancient times, that was called Numidia. And so when I hear these dudes talk about how the Moors was this, the Moors was that. Well, in ancient time, that area wasn't called, those people weren't called Moors. The word Moor is derived from the word moros, which is a Greek term that means black. So when I hear these idiots say, I ain't black, I'm a Moor, I laugh at it because it shows how little they actually know. So, and so when these foreigners come in, these invaders come in, they bring everything with them. They bring everything with them. And so when I hear people say that the Egyptians were into that, the first thing I ask them is, what are you reading? What did you see that told you that? Because when they said, like you were saying,
they tell you about the two men on the pyramid. They say they saw two men on the pyramid.
They're not kissing. Now let's look at that. Analyze, because I have a whole chapter that deals with this whole thing about, is it a part of African culture? Got a whole chapter that deals with that. So, and the first thing I do is talk about this particular incident. And it's two twins. They're actually twin brothers. They were buried with honors according to the principles of Ma'at. They had wives and children. And you see their paintings, you see the children, their wives and children at the tombs. So you see them there. So there's nothing there that they can use to actually show that. Show me in the language where, because in these paintings, there's glyphs there. See, there's glyphs there. And in these glyphs, which, and by the way, these two paintings they're talking about, this goes back to the third dynastic period, during the period of Imhotep. And when you see it, then there's language there. So I was asking, what did the words say? Because what they're doing is they're taking two pictures and trying to get you to see something from the 21st century and transpose that idea back to there. And you can't do that. You got to go to the language. You got to go to the language. Then they like to use a couple of other things that I won't go into. Like I said, it's in the book. You know, I document everything in the book. I tell you where I got it from. You got your sources. I got the quotes. I've got scientific studies and research journals, quotes from them. There's even a part where one LGBTQ organization actually confronted a research institution because they put up a research paper and tried to tell them that they needed to pull that research paper. This is how
Yep.
arrogant they are. See? And so what I like to tell people is this. Here's the weapon that they use. And this is a phrase that I came up with. I use it continuously throughout the book. They use political, economic, and social terrorism to terrorize everybody into acceptance. They do that if you're a politician and you come out against them, they're going to terrorize you into acceptance because they have strong control of the media. If you are an entertainer or an athlete, they're going to terrorize you economically by threatening your livelihood. Or if you work on your job, they're going to threaten you with being fired. And lastly, they're going to terrorize you socially. Now, I guess you probably are wondering why I'm not worried about that. Well, for one, I have the tools to fight back. And two, I'm retired.
Baba, said I'm retired.
So
what you say, Bob? I'm gonna say what I want to say out of my mouth. I'm retired.
You know, when you get like old folks always say, when you get our age, we say what we want to say. We say what's on our mind.
Absolutely.
And so I say exactly what's on my mind. I try not to be mean-spirited, but I'm matter of fact. And like I said, I've been doing this. I've been researching and studying and reading every day and get my hands on since I was 20 years old. I'm 66. That means that's 46 years. Most of these chumps who try to disagree with me ain't read 5 minutes. But yet they know everything. I don't know everything.
None of us do, Bob, but knowledge is infinite. None of us do. Right.
You know my favorite quote by Ptolemy. Be not arrogant because of your knowledge. Seek counsel from the ignorant as well as with the wise. For the limits of knowledge in any field. Now notice that here's the line I like. Let me say it again. Be not arrogant because of your knowledge. Seek counsel from the ignorant as well as with the wise. For the limits of knowledge in any field have never been set, and no one has ever reached them. Wisdom is rarer than emeralds, and yet it can be found among the women who gather at the grindstones. And so once you understand that there are no limits to knowledge and that no one has ever set the limit, how is it that you who just started studying and me who dedicates his life and has been, see, they got to remember, they see, now you got social media and you got internet, so they doing it that way. I got books.
Baba said, I got books.
Don't I use the internet too, but I got books. And I've been reading them and rereading them and rereading them. And so I continuously study and I continuously reassess what I've learned, because sometimes I have to change the position I held. That's why I no longer practice Islam, because what I thought was correct, as I grew, I realized I was not correct. And so the difference between me and some of these guys is this. They want to be right. I want to be correct.
Come on,
the difference is because as being correct means that you are always looking, assessing, reassessing. That's why. And so at this point, I ain't playing with nobody.
Come on, Baba.
You're going to come correct. When you come at me, you better come correct. Because if you don't, I'm going to beat your brains in intellectually. I'm not playing with you.
And Baba, you've been doing that for 12 years. And that 12 years of information, family, is in this book, An African Senate Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the conversation that no one wants to have. Baba, they're in the chat room cracking up. Brother Jeremiah, Africa, he's crying. Shout out to Baba MQ, MZ. MZ is also co-authored the book we were talking earlier.
That's my main
Raised
man.
awareness. He said Baba is not shooting blanks, LOL, with the laughing emojis. Oh man.
Yeah.
So Baba, look, I know it's almost to the hour. I think in about 30 seconds we'll be in it for an hour. So Baba, do you have any closing words before I talk about these 10 books? Because I'm handing out 10 books, family, tonight, 10 copies. All right. But you need to do something in order to get these 10 copies. But I want Baba to close us out with some closing words before I tell you how you can win your copy. Oops, I had the wrong book. Your copy of this. Yes, Baba.
I'm gonna read this one paragraph from the book. This is near the end. This is in the conclusion. And it says, we need Black men to be masculine, manly men. And we need Black women to be feminine, womanly women. We must stand up and fight back against this war that is being waged against us daily. It is a war that is being waged against us as a race of people on every front. The LGBTQ organizations are especially coming after our children. They are methodical and have been and continue to be relentless in their pursuit of our children and their minds, bodies, and souls. If we love our children, and I know we do, we have an obligation to protect them. So I say, stand up, Black man. Stand up, Black woman. Know your place. Honor the best in you. Manifest the best in you. Honor your ancestors and all the good that they stood for. And stand up and speak out against this war being waged against us and our children. Protect the children.
All right, Baba. Thank you so much for coming on. Family, in order for you to win a copy of this is what I need. I need you to inbox me. First of all, share this video. Once you've shared the video on your social media pages, inbox me and let me put up my name. Okay. You can inbox me here and I'm going to drop my name in the chat and just say, Doc, I've shared the show. And so what I'm going to do is go to your Facebook page or wherever you shared it. Hopefully it's on Facebook, but wherever you shared it, maybe on Facebook or maybe on YouTube. And what I'll do is once I verified that you have shared this video, then what I'll do, I'll send you a note back and then you just shoot me your shipping address. As a matter of fact, do this, share the show and then inbox me your shipping address. And once I verify that you've shared the show, then you'll receive a note that says, congratulations, you won a copy of An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the Conversation No One Wants to Have. So again, let me repeat those instructions because I kind of feel like I was all over the place with that one. So what I want you to do is this. Share this show, either share it on Facebook or share it on social media. I'm sorry, share it on Facebook or share it on YouTube. Once you've shared this show, inbox me your shipping address. Okay, these are my Facebook names. Matter of fact, let me highlight it. I said Facebook, Miss Althea, Facebook. These are my Facebook. Thank you, Miss Althea. These are my Facebook, not fake book. These are my Facebook names. Okay. Oh man, I think I kind of messed that one up. I forgot to put the Ma'at. At the end of this one right here. All right. And so send me your shipping address and just say, hey, Doc, I've shared the show. And I'm going to verify that you shared the show. Once I verify that you shared the show, I'll send you a message saying, congratulations, you've won a copy. Okay. So again, share the show on Facebook or YouTube. Inbox me your shipping address. Say, hey, I shared the show. And guys, make sure that it's public because a lot of us aren't even friends on Facebook. So if your page is private, I won't be able to see the post. So once you share the post, make sure that if you aren't friends already on Facebook, that you make the post public. All right. Make the post public so that I can see it. Brother Benjamin Campbell said, what if you don't have any social media account? Golly, Brother Benjamin. How can you share anything, right? So you can't participate, brother. I mean, you got to share the show and then you got to inbox me. But you said if you don't have a social media account, but you're on YouTube. You're on YouTube. I guess you don't have a YouTube channel that's jumping. All right. Mr. Michael Guest said shared. All right. Thank you so much. All right, Baba. So again, thank you so much for coming on the platform, Baba. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate your work, Baba, that you've been putting in. Oh, Baba, definitely. And Baba, you have to come back. You have to come back. Yeah, you got to come back because I've read half of this book. So I'm on chapter 8, family. And this book has, is it 14 chapters, Baba? Let me go back.
18 chapters.
Oh, 18 chapters. So I'm on chapter, I'm on chapter 8. So once I finish reading the rest of it, I got to bring you back on to discuss this. And family, I want to make an announcement. I won't be live next week. I'm leaving for Cameroon on Thursday. I'm going home for 2 weeks, and I'm calling it home because my mtDNA was traced to the Bamileke people of Cameroon. And so I'll be there. Okay, but I'm going to live stream. I'm having a naming ceremony on February 9th, and I do want you all to tune in. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to live stream, and I'm going to be posting videos on YouTube so you can see how my trip is going. I'm meeting with some of the kings and nobles while I'm there. So it's going to be an awesome trip. I'm going to be meeting with the Pygmies, Bob, and we talk about them all the time in the Congo and in Cameroon. I'm going to be taking a canoe over there to meet them. I'll be going to show Meltrek at different schools, and it's just going to be a phenomenal experience, and I want you all to experience this with me. So I will be going live, not to have a show, but to just show you where I am, and so you could see these things that I'm seeing. I'll be going to the slave port to see where more than likely my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother left. Well, not left, but she was taken, and she left.
Yeah,
she was kidnapped. And I'll be going back to that place, and we're going to be having a libation ceremony there. So I want you to come with me to Cameroon virtually. All right. So I won't be live with the Truth to Power talk, but I will be live in a sense that you'll be seeing things that I'm seeing and experiencing Cameroon with me. So with that said, Baba, thank you so much again.
Let's calm
for coming
on.
Welcome. Peace and black power.
Let's combat and fight back with Meltrek. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classics. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maat.